of lightning.
Hello everyone, welcome to Inside Winston Cup Racing. Yes, we're at the racetrack, the Talladega Superspeedway in Talladega, Alabama, and yes, the weather's a factor once again. Well, last weekend was a very tragic one for stock car racing. Gary Neese lost his life in the Busch Grand National race at South Boston, Virginia, and there was a tremendous accident here at Talladega as well. We'll cover all of that for you in this half hour of Inside Winston Cup Racing, and here is what else is coming up.
Well, a major crash marred the Winston 500, taking out nearly a third of the field prior to the halfway mark. But when it was all said and done, it was gas miles that got Harry Gant into victory lane for the very first time at Talladega. We'll bring you all the action from the Winston 500.
If driving race cars is your idea of real fun, the NASTRAK driver search can send you on your way, possibly as far as Australia.
And Busch Grand National driver Jeff Burton grabbed his first win of the year in a caution-filled Carquest 300 in South Boston, Virginia. A bittersweet victory following the untimely death of driver Gary Neese.
Today's show is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. By Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles. And by Kodak Gold Film, the official film of NASCAR.
One car manufacturer has more NASCAR victories than anyone.
Right down this thing.
The Winston 500 NASCAR Winston Cup race was the main attraction here at the Talladega Superspeedway this past weekend, but the ARCA cars ran on Saturday. They didn't get to complete their race, but they got more than half of it in, which made it official. Jimmy Horton came home the winner, but Randy, a major circumstance caused them to have to cut the race short.
Well, Ned, the ARCA 500K finally got red flagged on lap 76 due to darkness. But prior to that, a major wreck here in the Trioval. Chris Gerke got upside down and spun wildly into the infield grass and was struck by another car. Several other cars were involved, and some of those drivers had minor injuries. But Gerke and also Carl Miscotten II were pronounced in critical condition the day of the Winston 500. Now, carburetor restrictor plates were back again, and this time the 7/8 of an inch. Also slowed the speed some more, but Ernie Irvan captured his first pole position of 1991 with a speed of about 195 miles an hour. That's about 5 miles an hour off of the pole speed from last year. Also, Harry Gant was on the outside pole. Now, they had another race here, the International Race of Champions, and Rusty Wallace, Bill Elliott, and Mark Martin finished 1, 2, 3 in that event for a clean sweep of the NASCAR drivers. Well, on Friday, the number 20 Crown Oldsmobile of the late Rob Moroso was inducted into the International Motorsports Hall of Fame in an emotional ceremony that involved crew members and his father, Dick.
I'd like to thank my wife, Lori, and Debbie, and all those people that helped me get through this. It's been hard time.
Today's Winston Cup highlights are brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately?
As soon as the cars rolled off the line on Sunday, it began to shower, and those showers turned into a torrential downpour, shutting down the Talladega track for the day. So for the second time in this young NASCAR season, teams arrived on Monday to tear away the tarps on their race cars, do just a little tweaking and a lot of praying for sunshine and a full day's Winston Cup competition. While the sun failed to show until late Monday afternoon, the full 500 miles of competition was completed before the 100,000 plus fans that were able to fudge their way out of work. Ernie Irvan led the throng of 41 strong for the first lap of the 188 scheduled. That's when Kyle Petty pushed his mellow yellow Pontiac past Ernie on lap 2. On lap 4, Larry Pearson spilled his Kellogg's Cornflakes car into the grass on turn 1 and found a prize, but not the one that he was looking for. It was the first caution flag of the day. The new restrictor plates placed on the cars tightened up the field as expected, but strangled the competition as cars were unable to breathe by themselves or race on the bottom as they were forced to suck it up before getting back in line. It was follow the leader lap after lap, a high-speed freight train destined to be derailed, and on lap 71, the train left the track. Ernie Irvin uncoupled his car and caught Kyle Petty in the left rear and Mark Martin in the right, sending the Folgers forward flying and setting off a chain reaction that won't soon be forgotten. Most of the 19 cars torn up were taken to the garage area, which within minutes looked like $1 million junkyard. The race was red flagged for 33 minutes. Patty Petty, wife of Kyle, watched as her husband was flown with a broken leg to a nearby hospital. But fortunately for most drivers, they had merely injured their pride.
I didn't see a lot. All I seen smoke started flying, and I seen Mark Martin's car straight up in the air. He's out, he's okay. And unbelievable, his car's not as bad as I thought it'd be, but my car's got the left front corner knocked off, and we're trying to repair that right now. We'll see what happens.
You know, there's nothing I can do when somebody gets into you that far back on a car. I mean, it's up to him to get out of it or whatever, and we just couldn't get out of it.
The most wild ride you've ever taken?
I don't know. It could have been.
From there on in, the event was anticlimactic. Darrell Waltrip and Dale Earnhardt hooked up and drove away from the field, blowing by mangled machines on their way to a two-car shootout. But once again, at a restrictor plate race, it wasn't how fast, but how much fuel one could get from a tank. And Harry Gant got 55 laps out of his final fill-up and forged into the lead as Darrell and Dale pitted for a final splash. The Bandits' tank ran dry on the white flag lap, but got a nudge to the finish line by the sister Skoll Oldsmobile driven by Rick Mast. And finally, the 51-year-old Harry Gant from Taylorsville, North Carolina, found his way to victory lane for the first time ever at the Talladega Superspeedway.
We need to take a short break. Still to come are highlights of the Carquest 300 from South Boston, Virginia. And as we leave you for this break, here's the balance of the finishing order for the Winston 500.
In my considered opinion, it's okay to enjoy mowing one's lawn. Oh, for heaven's sake. In fact, my snapper significantly enhances my sense of well-being. Of course, my snapper dealer was kind enough to offer a 14-day
Racing Sports Club before June of 1990, then now's the time to renew your membership. And if you're not yet a member, now's the time to join, because the hottest club in motorsports is better than ever. Join or renew your membership, and as a free bonus, get racing's best new home video. Inside Winston Cup Racing's best stories of the year. A collection of the most exciting, intriguing, and important stories of the season, produced exclusively by Inside Winston Cup Racing. And throughout the year, Sports Club members receive sample issues of the best in race publications. The best savings available on travel discounts good anywhere in the country. 10% discounts on all pit shop racing merchandise and much more. To join the club or to renew your membership and receive the best stories of the year video, Visa, MasterCard, call 800-692-7777 or send check or money order for $22 plus $4 shipping and handling to IWCR Sports Club, Box 240417, Charlotte 28224.
Randy, when the drivers come to Talladega, experience is a key factor here.
Well, Ned, first of all, how did you get your experience?
Well, really on the dirt tracks, short asphalt tracks around the country, we didn't really have any other way to get experience.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ned, I've been coming to races for a long, long time, and I always wish that I could get in one of these cars, maybe not at Talladega, but possibly on a short track. And I'll bet a lot of you fans would like to get in one of these Winston Cup cars as well. And now there's a place you can do that, and it's called the NASTRAK Driver Search.
Ken, have you drove some type of race car before?
No, sirree.
No, sirree.
Okay, Randy?
Yeah, I went through Buck Baker's.
Okay. All right, Ken, no matter if how Randy's done that or we've had, experienced dirt and pavement drivers, we still tell everybody the same thing. We try to start out the same speed and build them up to the same speed, no matter, what they've done to keep the concept of how we're trying to do it so everybody understands totally what we do.
The NASTRAK driver search takes place at the Charlotte Motor Speedway and is open to anyone 21 years or older without prior Winston Cup, Busch Grand National, or other Major League stock car experience. The spokesman for NASTRAK is none other than the king, Richard Petty. Frequent Winston Cup racer Rodney Combs is the director of competition. After individual instruction of when and where to get on and off the brake and in and out of the gas,
Off that throttle, on that brake, little bit of brake, you don't have to really use it hard, a little bit of brake. Off that brake, you'll go up a little bit, you're going to change directions, start steering on that car, because you'll see at greater speeds, you got to turn.
it's time to suit up, strap in, and put the hammer down. Each person that signs up is tested for speed and accuracy around the 1.5-mile tri-oval. The top 25 entrants who qualify are flown to Australia, all expenses paid, for a one-week training course at the Thunderdome in Melbourne. Is it fun? You bet. Is it free? Of course not. Is it worth it?
Beg, borrow, steal. Beg, borrow, steal. The old thing that Richard says on the tape where you can't, the thrill of the bank track, that all really exists here. So there isn't any way you can change that part of it other than to come down and try it.
Only the first 1,000 entrants are accepted. The cost to enter is $2,650, but with a chance of winning the ultimate prize, a 12-month, 5-race contract to race down under.
Very fortunate guy that gets to win this thing and go to Australia and go over and race 5 times against Winston Cup guys that leaves from America that goes here. I mean, I would like to have this 15, 20 years ago to have an opportunity to where I've watched these guys till quite a few years before I got my opportunity to drive with them. And I mean, now that we're offering this to the public, to the racer, to whatever, I mean, and cutting the mile and over Winston Cup guys, Busch, ARCA guys out of this thing. I mean, it's down to the short track people, believe it or not, but we've had individuals that's come and did quite well. So people don't know their talent and ability, they come and do this. 140 plus, I mean, that's in the area, and I mean that's consistent. I mean, he says he looked good.
Super.
And hadn't drove before.
Exciting is the word. I surprised myself, did pretty good. 146 and a half. Never been behind the wheel of a race car before, and I tell you, the feeling of it's pretty intense.
Ultimate goal, Australia?
You bet. Yeah, anything it takes, any kind of racing. This is a unique opportunity, to get, I've never seen anything like it really, where a person gets a chance to actually get in a race car, So, for sure, yeah. Goal, yeah, Australia, it is, yeah.
As much fun as everyone seemed to be having, I couldn't resist the offer to strap on a helmet myself.
Right here. You see all these guys do all this stuff, just getting in the race car is tough to me. How do you do that?
And I think the biggest thing is, okay, where's my release? All right, there. Okay, I'm on there. Gotcha.
I'm here. How do you get out of this thing? Woo-wee. Man, I'll tell you what.
Listen to the crowd roar.
Why does anybody ever want to work when they could do that? How can you?
If you think you've got the talent to go racing down under, call NASTRAK at 704-784-8310 or 704-784-2808.
Well, Randy, you had an opportunity to get in one of those cars. How'd it feel?
It feels pretty good, Ned. I ran about 153 miles an hour, but I'll tell you what, I don't think I'm going to change my occupation anytime soon.
Well, 153 is about as fast as I was running a Charlotte Motor Speedway before I retired. We need to take a short break, but as we leave you, here's this week's Kodak Photo Finish.
Brought to you by Kodacolored Gold 100 Film, the truest, most accurate color of any print film. Show your true colors on Kodacolor, the official film of NASCAR.
NASCAR's revised pit rules set up a wild finish in the Valleydale Meets 500 at Bristol April 14th. Rusty Wallace and his number 2 Miller Genuine Draft Pontiac benefited from an odd-even lineup on restarts and battled Ernie Irvan in the closing laps. With the checkered flag waiting, Wallace and Irvan went door-to-door in turns 3 and 4. It was clean and exciting racing, with Rusty Wallace winning in a photo finish.
Fact. Ford offers performance that's supercharged and turbocharged. Fact. Ford offers 16, even 24 valve engines. Fact. Mustang GT, Pro GT, Thunderbird SC, Escort GT, and Taurus SHO make up the best-selling line of performance cars, American or import. Call it leadership. Call it winning. The simple fact is, Ford is #1. Have you driven a Ford lately? This is it. Your best chance of the year.
The Cup Series took a week off to dry out. The Busch Grand National Series rolled into Roger Penske's Pennsylvania International Raceway in Nazareth. We'll have all the highlights from the Pontiac Pacesetters 200.
And we'll sit and chat with Dick Moroso, father of the 1989 Busch Grand National champion and 1990 Winston Cup Rookie of the Year, the late Rob Moroso. Dick talks candidly about his frustration in losing a loved one and his determination to race on in Winston Cup competition.
Kenny Wallace is in a heated battle right now for the Busch Grand National point standings. We'll have his story next week.
The NASCAR Busch Grand Nationals ran the Carquest 300 this past Saturday at South Boston, Virginia. It was an exciting race, but a very tragic one. Gary Neese lost his life. There were many cautions in the race, and our Dan Kenyon was there.
The early part of the race belonged to pole sitter Steve Grissom as he led the first 88 laps. Tires were a problem all afternoon due to the newly paved surface at South Boston Speedway. None of the drivers could find a comfortable groove, and this accounted for a record 20 cautions for 103 laps, over 1/3 of the race. In between cautions, there was some great racing going on. Here, turn 2 gets tight as Steve Grissom, Chuck Bound, Kenny Wallace, and Richard Lassiter in the number 05 Chevrolet try to get through. Tommy Houston brought out caution number 5 for the afternoon after he lost his Buick in turn 2. On lap 88, Chuck Bound dove underneath Grissom and into the lead. He stayed there for the next 57 circuits. At the same time, Grissom started falling back as his right front tire started to go down. He was forced to pit and lost several laps. Ward Burton brought out the 7th caution with this spin on the front stretch. On lap 106, Jimmy Hensley got loose and ended up against the wall as yellow fever continued to plague the race. Kenny Wallace suffered a series of problems, one of which was losing his rear bumper, bringing out the 9th caution of the day. This allowed Bobby Dotter to take the lead with local favorite Jeff Burton right on his heels. Kenny Wallace then gets his front end clipped off as he and Chuck Bound get together in turn 4. Tommy Houston got tangled up here with Dave Resendez in the number 79 Oldsmobile, and they collected Chuck Bound, Jack Ingram, and Elton Sawyer. Meanwhile, Jeff Burton had managed to stay out of trouble and take the lead. On lap 201, tragedy struck the South Boston Speedway for only the 2nd time in the track's 34-year history. Driver Gary Neese suffered an apparent heart attack while running, his Oldsmobile coming to a rest between turns 3 and 4. Neese was taken to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead shortly after 6 p.m. Ward Burton, who had earlier fallen out of the race, watched, hoping brother Jeff could hold on for the victory. He did, taking the checkered flag 3 seconds ahead of Joe Nemechek for his first Busch Grand National victory of the year.
Today's mailbox is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft.
From time to time, we will take questions from our 900 phone line in our mailbox section, and our phone call this week comes from Robert Ponell of Avita, Florida.
Who gets to take a provisional start, and how is it determined by points, or what determines who makes a provisional start?
Well,
well, Robert, really appreciate you calling in, but the way the provisional starting spots are allocated, the top 35 car owner points can have 2 until the 10th race. At the 10th race, they get an additional one. At the 20th race, they get the 4th one.
If you have any race questions, you can write to us at Inside Winston Cup Racing, Box 240417, Charlotte 28224. Or you can now call us at 1-900-84-RACES. Charge is $1 per minute, average call 2 minutes. Fans 18 and under, get your parents' permission before calling. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Genuine Draft jacket free. Fans 21 and under will receive an IWCR cap and t-shirt.
Well, our time's up for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. And hey, let's say another little prayer for good weather on the weekends. But more than that, say a big prayer for the families who were involved in the tragedies this past weekend. We'll see you here next week on TNN.
Today's show has been brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer. Winning the world over with 1991 trucks that are built Ford tough. By Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. By Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles. And by Kodak Gold Film, the official film of NASCAR. Inside Winston Cup clothing provided in part by Sports Image Incorporated, suppliers of quality racing apparel. Communications for Inside Winston Cup Racing crew provided by Racing Radios, Forest Park, Georgia, the official communications of NASCAR. Transportation for Inside Winston Cup Racing provided by Fleetwood Enterprises, makers of a full line of excellent recreational vehicles. And by your Carolina Ford dealers. Nobody outsells Ford in the Carolinas.
Today.